My fiancée slept with her ex the night I bought her ring, so I returned it, left silently, and let her wonder what went wrong forever. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and for the longest time, I thought I'd already found my forever. Her name was Ava, the kind of woman who could light up an entire room just by walking in. She wasn't just beautiful. She was magnetic. The kind of person you meet once and think, if I lose her, I'll never find anyone like that again. When we first started dating, everything felt easy. We'd take spontaneous road trips just to chase sunsets, grab cheap takeout, and sit in the car for hours talking about our future, the house we'd own, the kids we'd raise, the kind of love we'd grow old in. It wasn't just talk. It felt real. She laughed at my stupid jokes, remembered every small thing I liked. It made me feel like the world wasn't so heavy when she was around, during one of the hardest years of my life. When my company downsized and I lost my job, Ava never flinched. She picked up extra shifts at her job, brought groceries, and told me, "We're a team, babe. You don't go through anything alone anymore." That sentence hit me deeper than I ever admitted. I'd grown up never really having someone who stayed when things got hard, but Ava did. Or so I thought. There's this strange warmth that comes when you believe someone truly sees you. I remember lying awake one night with her asleep next to me, her hand resting over my chest, thinking, this is it. This is the person I'll spend my life with. That night, I made a decision I didn't tell anyone about, not even her best friend, who she told everything to. I was going to save up for the perfect engagement ring, something that would finally show her what she meant to me. I had no idea that by the time I bought it, she'd already chosen someone else. Once I made up my mind, everything became about her, about us. I started researching rings like it was my full-time job. Late nights, scrolling through jewelers' websites, watching videos about clarity and cut, comparing diamond settings until my eyes hurt. I wanted something timeless, elegant, and perfectly Ava. She once told me she loves simplicity, nothing flashy, just something that feels like forever. I held on to that line like a promise. Ava's best friend, Mia, became my secret accomplice. I pulled her aside one day and told her what I was planning. Her eyes lit up, and she said, "Finally, Ava's been waiting for you to do this." All together. We spent weekends browsing stores under the excuse of birthday shopping. Mia helped me narrow it down, a white gold band with a solitaire diamond that caught the light in this subtle, almost shy way. It felt right. The proposal plan came together beautifully. A cozy cabin 2 hours from the city, the same one Ava and I had stayed in on our first anniversary. String lights on the porch, wine, music, and the sunset over the lake. I could already see the look on her face when I'd get down on one knee. Everything felt perfect, almost too perfect. That's when I started noticing small things. Ava was suddenly glued to her phone, her screen always tilted away. When I'd ask who she was texting, she'd smile and say, "Just work stuff. Don't worry." Once during dinner, she got a message that made her expression flicker, excitement mixed with guilt, and she immediately flipped her phone face down. I remember joking, "Secret admirer?" She laughed too quickly and changed the subject. I brushed it off. I was too caught up in the magic of what I was planning to shore that, in just a few weeks, I'd be proposing to the love of my life. If only I'd realized the cracks were already forming at first. I told myself every relationship goes through quiet phases, that Ava was just stressed, maybe tired from work. But the distance started small and spread like a crack in glass. She began canceling our usual Friday date nights, saying, "I'm swamped, babe. Can we just rain check?" At first, I believed her. She'd come home late, makeup smudged, the faint smell of unfamiliar cologne clinging to her jacket. I'd tease her about office guys hitting on her and she'd just roll her eyes. Then the phone habit started. She used to leave it lying around everywhere, even let me use it to cue songs in the car. Now, it was always face down, on silent, or stuffed in her pocket. Whenever I'd ask what was wrong, she'd sigh dramatically and say, "Why are you so paranoid lately? Can't a girl just have space?" It wasn't space she wanted, it was distance. Emotional, physical, silent distance that I couldn't cross no matter how hard I tried. One night, I woke up around midnight to the faint hum of her voice in the hallway. She was whispering soft, careful. I caught fragments of her words. I missed you too. I just can't talk long. My stomach dropped. Every nerve in my body told me to get up, confront her, demand the truth. But I didn't. I froze. When she tiptoed back to bed, pretending nothing happened, I just lay there, eyes open, pretending to sleep. The next morning, she kissed me on the forehead like everything was fine. And maybe I wanted it to be. Maybe I thought if I just kept loving her harder, it would all make sense again. So I doubled down on my plan. If I bought the ring, if I showed her my commitment, maybe she'd remember what we were fighting for. Maybe love was enough to fix whatever this was. I'll never forget the day I finally bought the ring. Weeks of saving every extra dollar, skipping lunches, taking overtime, all of it led to that single moment under the warm glow of the jewelry store lights. The saleswoman placed the ring on a velvet pad, and it caught the light like it was alive, a delicate white gold band. A flawless solitaire diamond that shimmered with every heartbeat. My throat tightened as I stared at it. This wasn't just jewelry. It was a promise, a future. Proof that despite everything, love was still worth betting on. I swiped my card, felt the sting of the price, and still smiled. It didn't matter. Ava was worth every cent, or at least I thought she was. As I drove home, the little box sat in my jacket pocket, burning like a secret. I rehearsed the proposal in my head. After dinner tomorrow night, I'd take her for a walk by the pier, tell her how she changed my life, and ask her to marry me. I even imagined her crying, saying yes, hugging me so tight I'd forget every doubt I ever had. When I walked through the door that night, she was getting ready, hair curled, perfume lingering in the air. She looked stunning. "Where are you going?" I asked. She smiled casually. "Just out with some old college friends. Girls' night, you know." Her tone was too smooth, too practiced. I offered to come along, half joking, and she laughed a little too loud. "No, babe, stay home. I'll be late anyway." Something about it felt off, like a line she'd rehearsed in front of a mirror. But I forced a smile, kissed her goodbye, and watched her leave as the door closed. I rested my hand on the ring box in my pocket and whispered to myself, tomorrow. Everything changes. If only I'd known how right I was, just not in the way I hoped. That night, the apartment felt too quiet. The kind of silence that hums, heavy and suspicious. I tried distracting myself, watching a movie, scrolling on my phone, but something in me wouldn't settle. Call it intuition, paranoia, or self-preservation, but my gut wouldn't shut up. Around midnight, I opened the location sharing app. Ava and I had set up months ago, back when we used to laugh about how transparent her love was. Her little blue dot wasn't anywhere near the restaurant she'd said she was going to. My chest tightened. I zoomed in. It was a hotel. On the outskirts of town, not some bar, not a friend's apartment, a damn hotel. My hands started shaking before I even realized I'd grabbed my car keys. The drive felt unreal, like my body was moving but my mind had left it behind. The farther I went, the colder I felt, even with the heater blasting. When I pulled into the lot, I saw her car right there, parked under a flickering streetlight. My heartbeat went from pounding to numb silence. I stayed in the car for a long time, staring at that front entrance. Then I saw him, Ryan, her ex. The same guy she used to say meant nothing, the one she promised she was over years ago. He walked through the glass doors of the hotel lobby, suitcase in hand, looking far too comfortable. A few minutes later, Ava appeared. Same coat, same perfume I'd kissed her goodbye in. I didn't need to see more. I didn't need explanations, tears, or lies. Something inside me, the part that believed in her, just went still. I drove home with the ring box on the passenger seat, unopened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at that velvet box, at every red light, realizing I'd bought a symbol of forever. For someone who'd already chosen a night of betrayal instead, when I heard the door unlock the next morning, my heart didn't race. It just sank. Ava stepped inside, humming softly, hair slightly messy, wearing the same coat she'd left in. She smelled like perfume and hotel soap, the kind that tries to mask something you can't wash away. She smiled when she saw me sitting on the couch. "Morning, babe," she said casually, dropping her purse on the table like everything was fine. "You're up early," I nodded, forcing my lips into something that resembled a smile. "Yeah, couldn't sleep much." She leaned down, kissed the top of my head, and said, "I missed you last night."
Oh.
The words almost made me laugh, not because they were funny, but because of how effortlessly she said them, like she hadn't just spent the night with someone else. I played along, numb but calm. "Got some errands to run today?" I said, grabbing my jacket. She smiled again, oblivious. "Don't be long. I thought we could grab brunch later." "Sure," I replied. My voice didn't crack, even though every part of me wanted to scream. The ring box was heavy in my pocket as I walked to my car. The world outside felt muted, traffic moving in slow motion, people laughing on sidewalks, sunlight that somehow looked colder than usual. Every turn of the steering wheel felt like moving away from a life I'd been pretending still existed. When I reached the jewelry store, the clerk recognized me instantly. "Back so soon?" she asked with a cheerful tone that made my throat tighten. I slid the box across the counter and just said, "Change of plans?" She opened it, the diamond catching the light like it was mocking me. The moment she took it away, I felt something break, and something else quietly unchained itself, walking out of that store. I wasn't the same man who'd walked in the day before. I'd just returned a ring, and with it, the last piece of the dream I thought was real. That evening, came home to the same apartment that used to feel like our sanctuary. Now, it just looked staged, like a set built for a lie. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, that sweet vanilla scent that used to calm me, but now only made my stomach twist. Ava was in the shower, humming softly, completely unaware that I had already decided to disappear from her life forever. I moved quietly, methodically, my duffel bag on the bed, laptop, a few changes of clothes, my passport, the important documents, everything I needed to start over. Every sound felt amplified, the zip of the bag, the creak of the floorboards, the rhythm of the water running behind the bathroom door. There was no note, no dramatic goodbye, no confrontation. She didn't deserve closure. Closure is for people who respect the truth. Before I left, I sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, staring at the indentation where she usually slept. I tried to remember the last time I'd actually felt her love. Not her words, not her affection, but the real thing. I couldn't. Somewhere along the way, she'd already left me emotionally. I was just catching up now. I walked out, locked the door, and never looked back. In the car, I blocked her on every platform, changed my number, and set my phone on silent. It didn't take long before it started lighting up missed calls, messages, her voice notes breaking into panic. "Where are you? What's going on?" She didn't know it yet, but she'd never get an answer. Hours later, I reached a nearby city and crashed on my friend's couch. I stood by the window, looking out at the skyline glowing against the night. "She'll never know what she destroyed," I whispered. And for the first time in a long time, the silence finally felt like peace. The first week after I left felt like waking up from anesthesia, disoriented, weightless, and unsure if the pain was really gone or just waiting to return. I stayed with my friend for a while, keeping my head down. My phone stayed silent except for the occasional update from mutual friends. That's how I found out Ava was spiraling. Apparently, she'd been calling everyone, hospitals, police stations, even my parents, claiming I was missing. She told people I was having a breakdown, that she was worried sick. The irony stung. The woman who shattered me was now playing the victim because I refused to give her the reaction she wanted at first. I felt guilty. Part of me wanted to reach out, to tell her I was fine, just not hers anymore. But then I realized no. This was the void she created. Let her sit in it. Let her feel that gnawing uncertainty, the endless what-ifs. It was the same feeling she'd left me with that night she walked into that hotel. Days slowly turned into a routine. Mornings at the gym, pushing through the anger, the betrayal, the exhaustion. Afternoons spent searching for work, building a life that didn't orbit around someone else's needs. Nights writing in a journal, untangling the mess she left behind. My therapist called it reclaiming narrative, but for me, it was more like breathing again. The silence that used to suffocate me now soothed me. I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for affection disguised as manipulation. I wasn't apologizing for feelings I didn't cause. One night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I realized I'd just had my first dreamless sleep in months. No lies, no images of her face, just stillness, and for the first time in years. That stillness felt like peace. It's not loneliness. It had been a few quiet weeks, enough time for the chaos to fade into background noise. I was learning to live without constantly checking over my shoulder, without waiting for the next wave of pain. Then one morning, an email notification appeared on my screen. The sender's name made my stomach clench. Ava. The subject line read, "Please read this. I owe you the truth." For a minute, I just stared at it. I told myself not to open it, that nothing she could say would matter now. But curiosity, or maybe closure, got the better of me. The email was long paragraphs of apologies, excuses, and self-pity dressed as vulnerability. She wrote that she'd messed up, that she'd slept with Ryan just once. Because she needed closure, those words. Burned closure. As if betrayal could ever be therapy. Then, she said it meant nothing, that it was a mistake, and that I overreacted by leaving without talking to her. She tried to twist my silence into cruelty, painting herself as the one abandoned. Not the one who destroyed everything, but buried halfway down the message was the real truth. A throwaway line that changed everything. Ryan and I started talking again a few months ago, but it wasn't romantic at first. My blood ran cold. A few months ago, that was when I'd been saving for her ring. When Mia had been helping me pick it out, I scrolled back up, rereading every line, every carefully chosen word. She hadn't just cheated. She'd been lying to me long before that night at the hotel. And Mia, the friend I'd trusted to help me plan the proposal, had known. It wasn't just Ava's betrayal anymore. It was theirs. I closed the laptop slowly, the screen dimming into blackness. For the first time since everything happened, I didn't feel sadness. I felt rage, cold, clear, and quiet. I don't know how long I sat there after reading that email. Maybe an hour, maybe the whole night. Time stopped making sense. I just kept rereading her words, each sentence cutting deeper than the last. Every "I'm sorry," every "it meant nothing." Felt like salt on an open wound I'd been pretending was healing. I wasn't crying anymore. I'd gone past that. What I felt was heavier humiliation, betrayal, and something worse, shame. Not for what she did, but for what I allowed myself to believe. How could I have been so blind? How did I not see the signs staring me in the face, the late nights, the secrecy, the way she made me feel guilty for doubting her? I thought back to all the moments that now played like cruel reruns. Her telling me she loved me right before turning off her phone. Her laughter when she called me paranoid. The fake warmth in her eyes when she said, "You're my forever." All of it scripted lies performed perfectly. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was realizing she never existed in the way I believed she did. I hadn't lost love. I'd lost an illusion, one I'd built with blind devotion and her careful deceit. I stared at the dark laptop screen, my reflection faint and unfamiliar. I looked like a ghost of myself, drained, hollow, emptied of trust. But in that reflection, something shifted. I saw the man she thought she'd broken and realized I didn't have to stay broken. There would be no revenge email, no confrontation, no begging her to understand the pain she caused. She thrived on reactions, on chaos, on control. So I chose silence. The one thing she couldn't manipulate, the one punishment she'd never escape. And in that quiet decision, I hit rock bottom. But I also felt the ground beneath me for the first time. Months passed, and life slowly began to feel like mine again. My new apartment wasn't much, just a small one-bedroom overlooking the street. But it was peaceful. No ghosts, no lies hiding behind smiles, no perfume lingering on pillowcases. I filled the space with small signs of progress. A coffee table I built myself. Books stacked unevenly on a shelf. Plants I actually remembered to water. The kind of ordinary things that start to mean everything when you've rebuilt yourself from nothing. Work picked up too. I threw myself into projects, late nights, and quiet mornings with black coffee and music humming in the background. My therapist once told me that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about accepting that the past no longer owns you. And for the first time, I understood what that meant. Then one day, a mutual acquaintance reached out. Just small talk at first, until they dropped a sentence that made me freeze mid-sip. "Hey, did you hear? Ava's engaged." I felt my stomach tighten for a second, but then, nothing. Just a calm curiosity. "To who?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Ryan," they said. Crazy, right? Apparently, it hadn't taken long for karma to make its entrance. The same rumor mill that once whispered about her missing fiancé was now buzzing with talk that Ryan had cheated on her with someone from his gym, no less. She'd caught him lying, sneaking around, doing to her exactly what she'd done to me. For a long time, I thought I'd feel joy if something like that ever happened, that I'd finally get the satisfaction she'd stolen from me. But instead, I just felt done. There was no revenge left to take. Her choices had already done the work for me. As I looked around my apartment, sunlight spilling across the floor, I realized I didn't need her to suffer. I just needed to live free. And that, in itself, is the most poetic ending she'd ever get. It's strange how peace doesn't arrive like a thunderclap. It seeps in quietly, like sunlight after a storm. These days, my mornings are simple. Coffee brewing, music low, the hum of a life that finally feels calm. I don't think about her much anymore, but every once in a while, a memory slips through. The night I returned that ring. The moment the jeweler took it back was the exact second I stopped chasing love that hurt. I didn't know it then, but that was the day I started coming back to myself. People always say revenge is about making them pay. But the truth, the most powerful revenge is absence, the silence that forces them to hear their own echoes. I never confronted her, never gave her the closure she probably still craves. I didn't scream, didn't expose her lies to everyone she fooled. I simply vanished. And in that disappearance, I took away the one thing she valued most: control. Over time, I realized guilt doesn't need witnesses. It thrives in quiet rooms, in unanswered questions, in wondering whether the person you broke still thinks about you. And if I know Ava, she's still wondering. She'll replay it in her head, trying to guess the moment I found out, the night the illusion shattered. That uncertainty is its own punishment. I'm not the man who left that apartment broken and hollow anymore. I'm someone new, someone who understands that love isn't proven through suffering, and trust isn't something you beg for. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes walking away in silence says more than any closure ever could. She'll never know when I found out, or how close she was to forever, and that mystery will haunt her longer than any goodbye ever could.